The first time my son-in-law tried to take my villa from me, I realized just how far entitlement can go, even in your own family. I'd spent my entire life working for this dream, a $2.3 million oceanfront villa, perched on a cliff with nothing but the endless blue Pacific stretching out before me. I bought it for peace, for the sound of waves instead of traffic, for the kind of mornings where you wake up and remember you finally made it. But Tyler, my son-in-law, saw something else. He saw an opportunity. It started with a phone call that should have been a celebration. I'd just finished signing the last document, the key still cold in my hand, when my phone buzzed. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. I should have trusted my gut. Hey, Richard. Heard you finally bought that place by the ocean. That's amazing, man. Listen, we're coming down this weekend. Me, just, the kids, and a few friends. We'll make it a family thing. You don't mind, right? He didn't ask. He told me. That's how Tyler always operated, like the world owed him a favor, and I was just the latest in a long line of people expected to pay up. I tried to explain that I hadn't even moved in yet, that the place was still full of boxes, that I wanted a little time to settle. But Tyler just laughed. Come on, Richard. You've got a villa now? Plenty of space. We'll help you break it in. I should have said no. But I hesitated, just for a second, and that was all the invitation he needed. By Friday afternoon, my driveway was packed with cars. Tyler's SUV was first, music thumping so loud I could feel it in my chest. He jumped out, sunglasses on, grinning like he just won the lottery. Jess followed, already lag streaming to her followers. The kids tumbled out, dragging beach toys and bags. Then came the friends, people I'd never met, but who greeted me like I was the staff at a five-star resort. Wow, Richard, this place is insane. One of them said, already heading for the pool. Another opened the fridge, helping himself to a beer. Tyler clapped me on the back. Told you this would be perfect. We'll take the master suite, obviously. Jess needs a view for her yoga videos. I stood there stunned as my new home was invaded. They moved in like they owned the place, claiming rooms, rearranging furniture, blasting music, and tracking sand across the marble floors. I watched as Jess set up her ring light in my living room, as Tyler's friends started a barbecue on my deck without asking, as the kids splashed in the pool, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. I tried to remind myself that this was family, that I should be happy to share. But as the hours passed, I felt my dream slipping away, replaced by chaos and noise. Tyler didn't thank me. He didn't even look at me. He just assumed this was now his villa, his rules. That night I lay awake in the guest room, my own master bedroom taken over by Tyler and Jess, listening to the thump of music and the crash of waves. I thought about all the years I'd worked for this, all the sacrifices I'd made. I thought about Sarah, my late wife, who'd always believed in kindness but never in letting people walk all over you. I wondered what she'd say if she could see this. The next morning, I found Tyler in the kitchen, making himself an espresso with my new machine. Morning, Richard. Hope you don't mind, I invited a few more people for the weekend. We'll need more towels. Oh, and Jess wants to host a little party tonight. Should be fun, right? He didn't see the look on my face. Or maybe he did and just didn't care. That was the moment I realized. If I didn't do something, I'd lose more than just a weekend. I'd lose my home, my peace, my dignity. Tyler wasn't just visiting, he was taking over. And if I let him, he'd never stop. I walked out onto the deck, the ocean breeze cool against my skin. I watched as strangers lounged by my pool, as Jess filmed another video, as Tyler barked orders like he was the host. I felt anger, yes, but also something else. Resolve. I'd spent my life solving problems, building things, making plans. I wasn't about to let my own son-in-law turn my dream into his playground. I made a decision, right then and there. If Tyler wanted to play games, I'd show him I could play too. But I'd play by my rules. I went back inside, calm and steady. I started making calls. To the local hotel, to a locksmith, to my lawyer. I made a list of everything that needed to change. I wasn't going to shout or argue. I was going to take back what was mine, one step at a time. Because sometimes, the only way to keep your dream is to fight for it, even if the person you're fighting is family. I started with the basics. I walked through my own house, taking stock of what had changed in just 24 hours. The kitchen was a mess of crumbs on the counters, empty bottles on the table, someone's half-eaten sandwich left on a plate. The living room looked like a college dorm after a party. Shoes scattered, wet towels draped over the back of my favorite chair, a sticky ring on the coffee table where someone had set down a drink without a coaster. The master bedroom door was closed, but I could hear Jessie's voice through the wood, recording a video for her followers. "This is the view from our new place," she said, as if she owned it. I felt a surge of anger, but I kept my voice steady. I knocked on the door. "Jess, I need to get some things from the closet." She opened the door, barely glancing at me. Can you wait? I'm filming. I didn't move. I need my things now. She rolled her eyes but stepped aside. I walked in, grabbed my suitcase, and left without another word. Tyler was in the backyard, grilling burgers for his friends. He waved at me, spatula in hand. Hey, Richard. You want one? I shook my head. No, thanks. I'm heading out for a bit. He didn't ask where I was going. He didn't care. I drove into town, my hands tight on the steering wheel. I called the hotel first, booking 3 rooms for the weekend. Then I called the locksmith, explaining that I needed the locks changed as soon as possible. Can he do it today? I asked. Thought the locksmith hesitated. That's a rush job, sir. But I can be there by 5. Perfect, I said. I'll pay extra. Next, I called my lawyer, Mr. Harris. He'd help me with the villa purchase, and I explained the situation. How my son-in-law and his friends had taken over my house. How they refused to leave. How I felt like a stranger in my own home. Mr. Harris listened quietly. Richard, you have every right to ask them to leave. If they refuse, you can call the police. It's your property. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Thank you. I just needed to hear it. When I got back to the villa, the party was in full swing. More cars had arrived and the backyard was crowded with people I didn't recognize. Someone had set up speakers and music thumped through the air. The pool was full of laughing, shouting guests. I watched as Tyler handed out drinks, playing the role of generous host. I walked inside, found Jess in the kitchen, and handed her an envelope. What's this? She asked. Hotel reservations, I said. For you, Tyler, and the kids. You'll be staying there tonight. She stared at me, confused. Are you serious? Very. Tyler came in, a beer in his hand. What's going on? I looked him in the eye. You and your friends need to leave. This is my home, not a hotel. I've arranged rooms for you at the best place in town. You can enjoy the beach, the restaurants, whatever you want. But you're not staying here. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You can't be serious, Richard. We drove all this way. But kids are having fun. Jess already told her followers we're staying here. I didn't flinch. You didn't ask. You just assumed. That ends now. The room went quiet. Jess looked at Tyler, waiting for him to fix it. Tyler's friends drifted in, sensing the tension. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting to see if I'd back down. But I didn't. I stood my ground, calm and steady. You have 2 hours to pack your things. The locksmith will be here at 5. After that, your keys won't work. Tyler's face turned red. You're kicking us out? Your own family? I shook my head. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. He tried to argue, to guilt me, to remind me of all the times I'd helped him out. But I heard it all before. I'd paid for their wedding, helped with the down payment on their house, covered bills when Tyler lost his job. Every time, it was the same story. Just this once, Richard. We'll pay you back. But they never did. I walked outside, leaving them to pack. I sat on the deck, listening to the ocean, feeling the tension drain from my body. For the first time since they arrived, I felt like I could breathe. It felt like Lock Sharp. The locksmith arrived. I met him at the door, showed him the locks, and watched as he worked. Tyler and Jess loaded their suitcases into the car, the kids whining, their friends grumbling. No one thanked me. No one apologized. As they drove away, Tyler rolled down the window. You'll regret this, Richard. Danley is supposed to stick together. I didn't respond. I just watched as their cars disappeared down the driveway, the sound of their music fading into the distance. When the locksmith finished, I paid him double. Thank you, I said. You have no idea how much this means to me. He smiled. Sometimes you have to protect what's yours. That night, the villa was silent. I walked through each room, picking up towels, straightening chairs, wiping down counters. I opened the windows, letting the sea air wash away the last traces of chaos. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the deck, watching the sun sink into the ocean. For the first time since I bought the villa, I felt at home. The next morning, I woke up to a silence so complete it felt sacred. No thumping music, no shouting, no doors slamming. Just the gentle hush of the waves and the distant call of gulls. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching the sunlight spill across the water. For a moment, I let myself believe the worst was over. But peace, I was learning, is never permanent when you have people like Tyler in your life. My phone buzzed before I'd finished my first cup. It was a text from Jess. The kids are upset. Tyler says you overreacted. Can we talk? I ignored it. I needed time to think, to reclaim my space, to remember why I'd bought this villa in the first place. But the messages kept coming. Tyler called, left voicemails, sent long texts about family, about forgiveness, about how I was ruining everything. He even posted on social media, painting himself as the victim. Kicked out of my own father-in-law's house? Some people forget what family means. The comments poured in, friends, distant relatives, even strangers, all quick to judge. How could he do that to you? You deserve better, bro. Family is everything. I felt the old guilt creeping in. The urge to explain myself, to defend my decision. But I resisted. I knew the truth, and that had to be enough. I spent the day cleaning, organizing, making the villa truly mine. I hung Sarah's favorite painting in the hallway, arranged my books on the shelves, set out the chess set we used to play on rainy afternoons. Every small act felt like a reclamation, a way to push back against the chaos Tyler had brought. But as the sun set, the anxiety returned. What if Tyler came back? What if he tried to force his way in? I checked the locks twice, then 3 times. I reminded myself that I'd done nothing wrong, that I had every right to protect my home. Still, I barely slept the next day. I called Mr. Harris again. I need to make sure this doesn't happen again, I said. I want to update my will, set clear boundaries. Maybe even get a restraining order if Tyler tries anything, Mr. Harris was reassuring. You're not alone, Archering. This happens more often than you think. People see what you have and they want a piece of it, but you're in control. You set the terms. His words gave me strength. I spent the afternoon drafting a letter to Tyler and Jess. I kept it simple, direct, and firm. You are not welcome at my villa without my explicit invitation. Any future visits must be discussed and agreed upon in advance. If you attempt to enter my property without permission, I will involve the authorities. I sent the letter by email and registered mail, making sure there was a record. It felt cold, maybe even harsh, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't let guilt or obligation dictate my life anymore. That evening, I sat on the deck with a glass of wine, watching the sky turn pink and gold. I thought about Sarah, about the life we'd built together, about the values she'd tried to instill in me. Kindness, yes. Generosity, always. But also self-respect, boundaries, the courage to say no. I realized then that Tyler's sense of entitlement wasn't just about the villa. It was about years of small concessions, of letting things slide, of believing that keeping the peace was more important than standing up for myself. I'd let him take and take, hoping he'd eventually learn gratitude. But some people only learn when you finally say enough. The next morning, I woke to another barrage of messages. This time, Tyler was angry. You're making a huge mistake. You're tearing this family apart. Don't expect us to come running when you need help. Jess chimed in too, her words sharp and cold. You're punishing the kids for something they didn't do. You're all alone now. Hope you're happy. I deleted the messages without replying. I joined a local book club, signed up for a cooking class, and invited an old friend from work to visit for the weekend. I filled the villa with laughter and conversation, with people who respected my space and my boundaries. Slowly, the anxiety faded. The villa became a place of peace again, a sanctuary, not a battleground. I learned to enjoy my own company, to savor the quiet moments, to appreciate the life I'd built. But I never forgot the lesson Tyler taught me. Entitlement doesn't end when you give in. It ends when you stand up. And I was just getting started. A week passed and the villa finally felt like home. I'd found a rhythm, morning walks on the beach, afternoons reading on the deck, evenings spent cooking meals I'd never had time to try before. The ocean became my companion, its steady rhythm a reminder that life moves forward, no matter the storms. But Tyler wasn't finished. It started with a letter, delivered by courier. The envelope was thick, the paper expensive. Inside was a formal notice from Tyler's lawyer. The words were cold, clinical, and unmistakably threatening. My client, Tyler Evans, asserts his right to access the property at 17 Ocean Crest Drive, as a member of the family and in accordance with verbal agreements made over the past years. Any attempt to deny access may result in legal action. I read the letter twice, then a third time, my hands trembling. I felt a surge of disbelief, then anger. Tyler was trying to use the law to force his way back into my life, into my home. He was twisting the truth, turning years of generosity into some kind of contract. I called Mr. Harris immediately. He listened as I read the letter aloud, then let out a low whistle. He doesn't have a leg to stand on, Richard. Verbal agreements mean nothing when it comes to property law, especially when you're the sole owner. This is just intimidation. Still, the letter rattled me. I'd always believed that family disputes should be settled privately, with conversation and compromise. But Tyler had escalated things, bringing lawyers into the mix, making it clear that he saw this as a battle to be won. I spent the next few days on edge, jumping every time the phone rang, checking the driveway for unfamiliar cars. I started to wonder if I'd made a mistake, if I'd gone too far. But every time I walked through the villa, every time I saw the sunlight streaming through the windows, I remembered why I'd drawn the line. Then, one afternoon, I got a call from my neighbor, Linda. She lived a mile down the road, a retired teacher with a sharp wit and a kind heart. Richard, I saw a group of people walking around your property this morning. They looked like they were taking pictures. My heart pounded. Did you recognize them? I think one of them was your son-in-law. The others were strangers. I thought you should know. I thanked her. Ben hung up and called the police. The officer who answered was polite, but firm. If anyone is trespassing, call us immediately. You have every right to protect your property. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation with Linda, imagining Tyler and his friends wandering through my garden, peering in the windows, plotting their next move. I realized that this wasn't just about the villa anymore. It was about control, about respect, about refusing to be bullied out the next morning. I installed security cameras around the property. I changed the alarm codes, notified the security company, and made sure every window and door was locked tight. I even put up a sign at the end of the driveway. Private property. No trespassing. It felt extreme, maybe even paranoid. But I knew I couldn't afford to be naive. Tyler had shown me who he was, and I had to believe him. A few days later, I received another letter, this one from Tyler himself. The handwriting was messy, the words angry and desperate. You think you can just cut us out? After everything we've done for you? You're not the only one who's lost family. Just as heartbroken. The kids miss you. You're going to die alone in that big house, and no one will care. I read the letter, then tore it up. I refused to let his words poison my peace. But the attacks didn't stop. Tyler started calling my friends, my old colleagues, even Sarah's sister. He told them I was losing my mind, that I was isolating myself, that I needed help. Rumors spread, whispers about dementia, about depression, about a man who'd lost touch with reality. At first, I was furious. Then I was hurt. But, finally, I realized what Tyler was really afraid of: losing control. For years, he'd relied on my generosity, my willingness to put his needs before my own. Now that I'd set boundaries, he was scrambling to regain his power. I decided to fight back, not with anger, but with truth. I called my friends, explained the situation, told them about the villa, about Tyler's attempts to take over. Most of them understood. Some even shared their own stories of family entitlement, of hard-won boundaries. I reached out to Sarah's sister, Margaret. She listened quietly, then said, "You're doing the right thing, Richard. Sarah would be proud of you." Her words brought tears to my eyes. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen, understood, supported. I realized then that standing up for yourself doesn't mean standing alone. There are people who will respect your boundaries, who will support your choices, who will remind you that you're not the villain in your own story. And sometimes, that's all the strength you need. The days that followed were a strange mix of relief and tension. On one hand, the villa was finally quiet, a sanctuary again. On the other, I felt the weight of Tyler's campaign against me pressing in from the outside world. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced myself for another accusation, another rumor, another attempt to undermine my peace. But I refused to let him win. I poured my energy into the life I'd always wanted. I joined a local hiking group, started volunteering at the community center, and even took up painting, a hobby Sarah had always encouraged, but I never found time for. The more I invested in my own happiness, the less power Tyler's words had over me. Still, there were moments when loneliness crept in. I missed the idea of family, the comfort of shared meals and inside jokes, the sense of belonging. But I reminded myself that real families don't demand, don't manipulate, and don't try to take what isn't theirs. Real families respect boundaries, even when they don't understand them. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, there was a knock at the door. I hesitated, heart pounding. I checked the security camera feed on my phone and saw a familiar face, Margaret, Sarah's sister. I opened the door, surprised and relieved. She stepped inside, her arms full of groceries. "I thought you could use some company," she said, smiling. "And maybe a home-cooked meal that isn't just for one." We cooked together, laughing over old stories, sharing memories of Sarah. For the first time in a long while, the villa felt warm, alive, filled with the kind of love that doesn't come with strings attached. After dinner, we sat on the deck, watching the stars appear one by one. Margaret turned to me, her voice gentle. "Yo, Sarah always worried you'd give too much. She admired your generosity, but she wanted you to save some of it for yourself." I nodded, feeling the truth of her words settle in my chest. "I think I finally understand what she meant." Margaret squeezed my hand. "You're not alone, Richard. You have people who care about you. Don't let Kyler make you forget that." Her visit was a turning point. I realized that I didn't have to choose between kindness and boundaries. I could be generous without being taken advantage of. I could open my home to people who respected it and close the door to those who didn't. The next week, I invited a few friends from the hiking group over for a barbecue. We ate on the deck, watched the sunset, and shared stories late into the night. There was no drama, no tension, just easy laughter and genuine connection. It was everything I'd hoped a villa would be. But Tyler wasn't done. He sent another letter, this one more desperate than before. "You're making a mistake. The kids miss you. Jess is struggling. We need your help. Please just let us come back for a weekend. We'll be better guests this time." I read the letter, then set it aside. I felt a pang of sadness for the kids, for the family I'd lost, but I knew that letting them back in would only start the cycle over again. I'd learned my lesson. Some doors, once closed, need to stay that way. Instead, I wrote a letter back not to Tyler, but to his children. I told them I loved them, that I missed them, that they were always welcome to visit with their parents' permission and my invitation. I sent the letter through Margaret, who promised to deliver it. I never heard back from Tyler or Jess. But a few weeks later, I received a drawing in the mail, a picture of the villa, the ocean, and a stick figure version of me smiling on the deck. The kids had signed their names at the bottom, in bright, wobbly letters. I hung the drawing in the hallway, right next to Sarah's painting. It was a reminder that love can survive even the hardest boundaries. That kindness doesn't have to mean surrender. As summer turned to fall, their villa became a place of healing. I filled it with friends, with laughter, with new memories. I learned to let go of guilt, to trust my instincts, to believe that I deserve peace. And every night as I watched the sun sink into the ocean, I whispered a quiet thank you to Sarah, to Margaret, to everyone who would help me find my way back to myself. Because, in the end, the villa wasn't just a house. It was a promise to live on my own terms, to protect what mattered, and to never let anyone take that away from me again. Autumn brought a new kind of peace to the villa. The tourist crowds thinned, the air grew crisp, and the ocean seemed to settle into a quieter rhythm. I found myself waking up each morning with a sense of gratitude, no longer haunted by the fear of another unwanted invasion. The villa was mine again, and I was finally learning how to enjoy it. But even as the days grew shorter, Tyler's shadow lingered. Every so often, I'd hear from a mutual acquaintance who'd run into him at the grocery store or at a school event. The stories were always the same: Tyler complaining about how I'd betrayed the family, how I had stolen the villa out from under them, how I was hoarding my wealth while they struggled. It was clear he was still trying to control the narrative, to paint himself as the victim. At first, I bristled at the rumors. I wanted to defend myself, to set the record straight. But I realized that the people who mattered already knew the truth. Margaret, my friends, the neighbors who'd seen what really happened, they all stood by me. The rest, I decided, could believe whatever they wanted. One evening, as I was locking up for the night, I noticed a car idling at the end of the driveway. My heart skipped a beat. I watched from the window as the headlights flicked off, then on again. For a moment, I wondered if Tyler had come back, if he was planning to confront me face to face. But after a few minutes, the car drove away, swallowed by the darkness. I slept fitfully that night, old anxieties resurfacing. The next morning I checked the security footage, nothing out of the ordinary, just a car turning around. Still, it was a reminder that vigilance was part of my new reality. I couldn't afford to let my guard down, not completely got to distract myself. I threw myself into new projects. I started restoring the old garden behind the villa, clearing out weeds and planting roses in Sarah's favorite colors. I joined a photography club, learning to capture the ever-changing moods of the ocean. I even adopted a dog from the local shelter, a scruffy mutt named Max, who quickly became my loyal companion. Max was a revelation. He greeted each day with boundless enthusiasm, reminding me to savor the simple joys. A walk on the beach, a nap in the sun, a game of fetch in the yard. With him by my side, the villa felt less empty, less haunted by the past. One afternoon, as I was trimming the roses, Margaret stopped by with a basket of apples from her orchard. We sat on the porch, sipping tea and watching Max chase seagulls across the lawn. "You seem happier," she said, her eyes kind. I admitted. "It took a while, but I think I'm finally where I'm supposed to be." She smiled. "Sarah would be proud. You've built something beautiful here, Richard. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." Her words stayed with me. I realized that, for the first time in years, I wasn't living in reaction to someone else's demands. I was living for myself, for the life I'd always wanted, but Tyler's absence didn't mean giving up. One day, I received a letter from his lawyer, this time less threatening, more conciliatory. "My client wishes to resolve this matter amicably. He proposes a family meeting to discuss future visits and the possibility of shared use of the villa." I read the letter, then set it aside. I knew what Tyler was doing, trying to regain a foothold, to negotiate his way back in. But I also knew that any compromise would only open the door to more demands, more chaos, more pain. I called Mr. Harris, who agreed. "You've set your boundaries, Richard? You don't owe anyone an explanation. If you want to respond, keep it brief and formal." So I did. I wrote a short letter, stating that the villa was my sole property, that all visits would be by invitation only, and that any further attempts to force access would be considered trespassing. I sent it by registered mail, keeping a copy for my records. After that, the letters stopped. The phone calls dwindled. Tyler's campaign lost steam, and life at the villa settled into a gentle, satisfying routine.
I realized then that peace isn't something you find, it's something you create, day by day, choice by choice. It's the result of 1,000 small decisions to protect what matters, to let go of what doesn't, to trust yourself even when others try to make you doubt yourself. As winter approached, I stood on the deck with Max at my feet, watching the waves crash against the rocks. The sky was streaked with gold and purple, the air sharp with the promise of rain. I felt a deep, quiet contentment, a sense that at last I was home. Winter on the coast was different from anything I'd known. The storms rolled in from the sea, wild and beautiful, battering the windows and rattling the doors. Some nights, the wind howled so fiercely that Max would curl up at my feet, shivering until I reassured him with a gentle hand. But inside the villa there was warmth, firelight, the smell of baking bread, the quiet comfort of a life reclaimed. I spent the holidays with Margaret and her family, grateful for the invitation and the laughter that filled their home. We shared stories about Sarah, about the old days, about the strange winding path that had brought us all here. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outsider looking in. I felt like I belonged. On New Year's Eve, I stood on the deck with a glass of champagne, watching fireworks bloom over the water. I thought about the year behind me, the battles fought, the boundaries set, the peace hard won. I thought about Tyler, about Jess, about the kids. I wondered if they were watching the same sky, if they felt the same mix of hope and regret. I made a promise to myself that night. I would keep moving forward. I would not let the past define me or fear dictate my choices. I would open my heart to new experiences, new friendships, new joys, and I would protect my peace no matter what. The new year brought small surprises. One morning, I found a postcard in the mailbox, a picture of a beach, signed by Tyler's kids. "We miss you, Grandpa Richard. Hope you're happy." The handwriting was clumsy, the message simple, but it meant more to me than any apology Tyler could have offered. I wrote back, sending a photo of Max and me on the beach, telling them they were always in my thoughts. Slowly, the wounds began to heal. The villa became a place of gathering again, not for parties or chaos, but for quiet dinners, for book club meetings, for friends who respected the space and the man who owned it. I learned to trust again, to let people in without fear of being overrun. One afternoon, as I was walking Max along the shore, I ran into Linda, my neighbor. She smiled, her cheeks rosy from the wind. "You look good, Richard. Happier than I've seen you in a long time." I laughed. "I think I finally figured out how to live here." "Took me long enough?" She nodded. "Sometimes it takes a storm to show you what's worth protecting." Her words stayed with me. I realized that in a strange way, Tyler had given me a gift. By trying to take what was mine, he'd forced me to fight for it, to claim it. Not just as a piece of property, but as a piece of myself. I was no longer the man who let others decide his worth. I was the man who set the terms, who chose his own happiness, who built a life on his own foundation. Spring arrived with a burst of color, wildflowers blooming along the cliffs. The air sweet with the promise of new beginnings. I planted a small vegetable garden, watched Max chase butterflies, and invited Margaret and her grandchildren for Sunday lunches on the deck. The villa was alive with laughter, with music, with the gentle rhythm of a life well lived. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat on the deck with Margaret, sipping tea and watching the sky turn to gold. She looked at me, her eyes bright with pride. "You did it, Richard. You turned the tables. You took back your life." I smiled, feeling the truth of her words settle deep in my bones. "I guess I did. And I'm not giving it up again." We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes with true understanding. I thought about all the ways my life had changed, the battles fought, the lessons learned, the peace found in the aftermath of chaos. I thought about Sarah, about the love we'd shared, about the future she'd always wanted for me. I knew there would be challenges ahead. Tyler might try again, or someone else might test my boundaries. But I was ready. I had learned that strength isn't about never being hurt. It's about standing up again and again. For what matters most, as the stars appeared, I whispered a quiet thank you to Sarah, to Margaret, to everyone who had helped me find my way. I knew I wasn't alone. I knew I was loved. And I knew, finally, that I was home. The villa, once a symbol of dreams deferred, had become a testament to resilience, to courage, to the power of saying no. It was a place of healing, of hope, of new beginnings. And it was mine not just in name, but in spirit. If you're listening to this, maybe you've faced your own Tyler. Maybe you've struggled to set boundaries, to protect your peace, to claim the life you deserve. Maybe you've been told that family means giving until there's nothing left. That kindness is weakness. That saying no is selfish. I'm here to tell you, it's not. You have the right to protect what's yours, to set the terms of your own happiness, to build a life that reflects your values and your dreams. You can be generous without being exploited. You can be kind without being a doormat. You can love without losing yourself, and if you ever doubt it, remember my story. Remember the villa, the battles, the victories, both small and large. Remember that peace is worth fighting for, and that sometimes turning the tables is the bravest thing you can do. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've protected your peace, how you've set your boundaries, how you've turned the tables in your own life, and if you're ready for another story, just click on the box on the left. Until next time, take care of yourself, and never let anyone take your villa from you.